Hey everybody, Becca here and welcome back to my channel. If you're new, welcome. I'm so glad that you are here. Today we're going to be sewing up the newest pattern from Lowland Kids and it's the Weekender set. So this includes a top and a bottom, a pair of pants, and I will be doing both of those in this video. This is such a quick and easy sew. This is great if you're looking for something that you can whip together really quickly, or if you're a beginner and you're looking for something with not too many steps that's relatively simple, but it still is so cute once it's done. So as I mentioned, this is a top and a bottom. The top has a couple different options, and when I sewed this up and created the tutorial, the top just had the high-low hem, and then they did change it to have a straight across longer hem if you wanted that option. So that is included as well. And then there's also a neckband or a hood option. I will be doing the neckband option, also be doing the curved hem option, because like I said, that was the only option at the time. But if you're doing the straight across hem, it's the exact same steps. There's really nothing special to it that is going to be any different in this video. And then for the bottoms, they are just a pair of like straight leg pants with a waistband, and I will be using a very lightweight athletic knit for this. It is from Boho Fabrics. This particular print, I'm doing a front tie-dye one, is out of stock currently, but they do have some other ones similar. It's also great if you're using like a French terry. You don't need something with a ton of stretch. For the waistband you might, because it is held up by the waistband, so you could use something with less stretch, but you just do want to make sure that you use a different material for the waistband if that is the fabric you choose. And I will put a link to the pattern down below, as well as anything else that I mentioned in the video. I'll put a link down below and you can check out all of my favorite sewing tools and anything like that as well. You can also jump through the video. I will start with the pants first and then move on to the top. So they're kind of separated. I won't do them together, so you can jump in between those as well. So let's get started. Started, we're just going to go over the pieces we need, and technically it's really only two pattern pieces, and then you just cut two of each. So you're going to have two pant legs, and they are cut opposite, so you can't really tell with this fabric, but if they are right sides together, they should be looking the same, or if they're wrong sides together. And then when you would open them up, both right sides up, they should, either depending on which side, they would either come in at a point or go out at a point together like that. And that's how you know you have them cut properly. If both of them were, say this was both my right sides up and they were both pointing the same way up at the top, then that means you cut out one of your legs incorrectly, and you would have either two left legs or two right legs. And then you have two waistband pieces. Now this isn't ribbed, there's a ribbed piece and a non-ribbed, and all that means is the type of fabric you're using. So if you are using a ribbing that is really stretchy, you want to cut out that piece. And then basically if you're using any fabric that is not ribbing, let me see if I can find some here. So this is a ribbing, and it's where you can really see, especially when I stretch it, those lines in the fabric, and that is the ribbing, where it's basically like a wave of fabric, which makes it extra stretchy, and that's all that is for. So you want to make sure you cut out the right one, and then you have two of those. So we're going to set our waistband pieces aside real quick, and we are going to take our pant leg pieces, and we're going to lay this bottom one right side up. And I just want to make sure, yep, that's my right side. And then we're going to take our other pant leg and lay it right side facing down. Oops. Right side facing down, lining up these curved seams here, which those are our crotch seams, is what those are. And then we're just going to line up, starting at your waistline, line up the raw edges of your curved seam there. And then we're going to come over here and do the same thing. Now this is a 12-month size, just for reference, so my seams aren't very long here, so I don't need a ton of clips. But now when you get into bigger sizes, you might need more. But this is actually a 12-month with a 9-month inseam. So these are hemmed. If you are needing to shorten it, all you would do is pull up the inseam chart and then look at the length that you need. And I know that I need a 9-month inseam, so I just cut out my pattern at a 12-month width and then cut it at that 9-month line for the length. Super simple to adjust the length on these pants particularly. But anyways, we are just now going to go and we're going to sew this seam and that seam and be right back. All right, so once you got those sewn, you're going to grab your bottoms kind of in the middle and just flip it out so that then your seam lines are basically on top of each other. And now you can see how they are kind of turning into pants. So now the next step we have to do is we're just going to come to the middle here, and at that point where our crotch seams meet, we're going to pin those together. And I like to nest my seams, meaning one seam allowance is going to face this way and the other is going to face that way. It doesn't matter which way you do as long as they are opposites, and that's going to help reduce the bulk in that seam, and also they kind of catch on each other and it just helps keep it lined up. So I'm going to pin that, and then I'm going to lay these back down and just kind of open them up there. And then starting back here where we were, we're going to just line up the raw edges down one side of our inseam and work our way down to the hem, lining up those edges. And then we're going to go ahead and do the other side over here, keeping those raw edges nice and lined up. And once you have that all clipped, then you're going to just go ahead and you're going to start at one angle, sew all the way up, pivot at this point here, and then sew all the way back down in one big full seam. So I'm going to go sew that real quick and be right back. All right, so once you do that, you are getting really close to done. I told you these were so quick. It's crazy. So we're going to set our pants aside here for a second. We're going to take our 2 waistband pieces and we're going to lay them with right sides together. Let me just make sure. Yep, so right side there, flip it so we have our right sides together, lining up this edge here. And there is a bit of an angle divot in that, and that is kind of just to help the waistband have a little bit of taper up at the top towards the waist so that it stays up, is all that that's for. And we're just going to match up those edges. Then we're going to just sew down this side and just kind of pivoting here at this point on both of those. So now that we have the waistband sewn, we are just going to fold it at, I like to go at the seams and match them up with wrong sides together, and then I'll just put a pin in there to keep those together. Then come over to the other side and do the same thing, match up those seams there, and then we're going to pull, leave it like that, and we're going to bring our pants over here. And typically I would say on a pattern like this where you have 2 pieces of the waistband, you have 2 seams, match it up with your side seams, but these do not have a side seam. So I'm going to just match up my front and back seams there the best I can. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's a little bit, there's a little bit of room for error, so it's not a big deal. But then just flatten it out, and where these folds are here is where we're going to just call those our side points. So I'm just going to put a clip in there, and then I'm going to take my waistband, and I have the raw edge up here at the top, and I'm going to slide it inside of my pants. Now if you are doing a directional print, meaning it has an up or down, like it can be upside down, just make sure when you're putting your waistband in, you are going to have it the correct way when you're done. You don't want it to be upside down when you're all done with that. Trust me, I've been there. But what we're going to do is we're just going to take our clips, and I'm just going to take this one off, line them up, and then slide the pants in to that clip. And then I'm going to do the same thing over here, line up these points, pull that one out, line up those raw edges, slide that in. And then if you need to, which I think I'm going to, this is a pretty slinky fabric, so I'm gonna just put another clip in with all of those at my center front and matching up my center back as well. And I don't know, let me see if the waistband is a little bit smaller, not a ton, than our waistline. And so you just want to, when you sew it, just very slightly stretch your waistband so that it fits the waist of your pants and lays flat as you sew. Don't overstretch it, like I said, just extremely minimally, almost really, you might not even have to stretch it too much to get it to fit, but then you're just going to go ahead and sew all the way around those. So once you have your waistband sewn on, you can see that there, and now we are right at the finish line of our pants. All we are going to do is we're going to take the bottoms, and you can trim your strings if needed. Trim those off, and then you're just going to fold it in so that you have your wrong sides together. You're going to fold it up 3/4 of an inch and top stitch that all the way around and do both those legs, and then your pants are done. So I'm going to go do that, and then we will move on to the top, and our pants are done. All right, now moving on to the top. This is also a pretty quick sew as well. It's really just kind of a basic raglan style. There's a little bit different things with it, but it's going to sew up just like really any other raglan. So if you ever need to just sew a raglan, like the raglan sweater, this would be pretty much the same thing. So for this pattern, you're going to have the front and back, and the front it's kind of a high-low design. So the front has this curve on it, and then the back has kind of a dropped bottom curve. You're going to have 2 sleeves cut opposite or mirrored image. You're going to have 2 cuffs. You're going to have a waistband, and then I'm doing the neckband, so you're going to have 1 neckband piece. And if you watched the pants, I talked about this, but there's a ribbed version and a non-ribbed version of the neckband, and that's just a different type of material if you're using like a ribbing or an extremely stretchy fabric with really strong recovery. But this is just an athletic knit, so I'm using the regular neckband. But that's the only difference of the type of neckband that you need. And if you were doing the hood, you would have 2 hood pieces, but we're not gonna do the hood, so I just have the neckband. So you would either have a neckband or 2 hood pieces. You wouldn't have both. And so now what we're going to do is we are going to set our bands and cuffs aside, and we are going to take, right now we're just going to work on our front panel, and we're going to take our sleeves. So on a raglan, the sleeves are also part of the neckline. So this curve here continues onto our neckline, and almost always, unless it's like a unique style, the lower point of the sleeve shoulder is going to be the front. So these are my front points, and then this is the back. You can see here how the front neckline is a little bit lower than the back neckline, and that's pretty standard on shirts as well, unless there's like a unique scoop back or something like that. But so that's one quick way that you can typically tell a front and back on a pattern piece. So what we're going to do is, let me make sure, we're going to lay our front piece up with right side facing up, and then we're going to take one sleeve. This has my right side here, so I'm going to flip it over so that it is right sides together, and then this has the lower point here, so that is the front of my sleeve. So I'm going to line that up, starting up here at my neckline. I'm going to just pin this on here, lining up this curve all the way down to the armpit. And then I'm just going to kind of tuck this back over here a little bit because we're going to do the other sleeve at the same time. So I'm going to flip this so it's right sides together. And where did the top go? There it is. It flips sideways too. So I'm going to take my shorter end. If you did not cut mirror images, you would run into the issue where if you laid it right sides together, you would have the higher end on lined up with the sleeve, and then you know that you didn't cut your pattern piece out right. So that's just one thing to make sure and check. Don't force it and don't try to like pull it. And also if you're using a solid, it's a good time to double check that you have it right sides together, because sometimes it can kind of be hard to tell right from wrong side on those solids. Ask me how I know. But anyways, now we're just going to go and you're going to sew this seam here of this sleeve and this seam here as well. So I'm going to go do that real quick and be right back. All right, so once you have those sewn on, I am just going to flip those open. And now with a raglan, it can get kind of easy to confuse the body and the sleeve. So just make sure you know which ones are your sleeves and which one is your bodice, especially if you only do one sleeve at a time. I've attached a sleeve to the wrong section and thought the sleeve was the bodice, and just, yeah. But so what we're going to do now is I am going to put that aside here real quick, and then I'm just going to lay out my back bodice, and then I'm going to put my front bodice just on top of it, right sides together, with the necklines up here at the top. And then we're just going to do basically the same thing. Now we just have it all hooked together in a big line with an extra piece in there. So I'm just going to line up my sleeve with my back bodice now and pin those, and then I'm just going to leave this bunched up here and match up this piece here, line that up, and then I'm just going to sew down here and sew down here, and just be careful that you don't catch any of this extra fabric in while you're sewing. So I'm going to go ahead and sew that and be right back. All right, so I sewed those on, and now we have our shirt. So this is where I was talking about where it can get kind of easy to confuse your sleeves with your front and back bodice. So you just want to make sure you know which one is which, because what we're going to do is we're going to just line it up. And this one's a little bit easier because it does have the high-low hem on it, but I will say I have accidentally matched up the sleeves like this and then sewn it here, which is not right. So you're going to take here, you can see my front bodice, here's that curve. My back bodice, we're going to just flip it over, and we're going to match up our armpit seam here at that sleeve, and I'm just going to pin that, and then I'm going to work down my sleeve first. So I'm just going to keep these edges lined up, pin down to my wrist, and then come back here, and I'm going to pin down my waistline just like that. And then you would start at your wrist and sew here, kind of pivoting at the armpit and then all the way down, and then you would do that same thing on this side as well. So I'm going to go ahead and sew up both of those sides and be right back. All right, so once you do that, the base of our shirt is done. So we're going to set that aside for a second. We're going to take out all of our cuff and band pieces, and we're just going to take every single piece. So here's my neckband, and I'm going to fold this in half with right sides together, match up this short end here. Then I'm going to take my cuffs, have them right side up. I'm going to fold them over with right sides together, matching up this edge here and pinning that. Do it with your other cuff as well. Pin that, and then we're going to do our waistband. So we're doing all four of these at the same time just because they're all the same process here and makes it a little bit quicker. So right sides together, matching up this short end here, and then we're just going to go ahead and sew all of these pieces we have pinned. So we're going to sew here on our neckband, down this side on our cuffs, and down here on our band. So I'm going to go sew up all those pieces and be right back. All right, so I have all of those sewn up, and we are going to start with our neckband. I usually like to do the neckband as soon as I can, just because then I have less weight pulling it down. This one isn't too bad, but especially if it's like a dress or something like that, I'll do the neckband as early as I can. So just like if I have just the bodice, I'll put the neckband on before adding the skirt, even if the instructions say not to. I just find it easier to work with the neckband and make it lay nicer. So what we're going to do is you're going to take your neckband and we're going to fold it in half, matching up our seams with wrong sides together. And then I'm going to fold the rest of it over, getting it wrong sides together, matching up those raw edges, and I'm going to find my center point. And this fabric is very slippery, so bear with me here a second. All right, and then I'm going to mark that fold there, and then I'm going to quarter it, so I'm going to match up those 2 points. And that actually looks really wrong. Hang on. Okay, let me scoot that over a little bit. All right, so I'm going to just match up these 2 pins and lay them on top of each other, and then I have these folds here. Those are going to be my other 2 quarter points. So quartering it means you're splitting it into fourth, and you have 4 points. See, it's coming out. Okay, I'll hook that in there. And just gonna lay this here, and then you can see here I cut a notch. I didn't think to do it on the back piece. Sometimes I do if there's a fold line or it's cut on the fold. Usually at the front and back of my pieces I will cut a little notch just so that I know exactly where the center line is without having to worry about it once it's made. So I have this center point here on my front, so I'm just gonna pull that and find where it folds in the back, and that's gonna be my back center. And then again, we're just going to match up our front and back points here, find those curved points, and find this other side here. And this is probably honestly the hardest part of this pattern, is doing the neckline. The cuffs and the waistband are basically the same process, but the neckband is a little bit harder just because it is one, a smaller area, and your neckband is thinner. So don't stress too much if you are struggling a little bit with it. That's okay. But so what we're going to do is we're going to take that center back, which is our seam, and line it up with our back neckline here. And I'm going to just take the clip off of my neckline, just because I already have 2 layers in the other one, and then slide it in and match that up. And then I'm going to take my center front, match it up, my mark there, my side seams, my side points, match those, slide it in, and over here. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to take this over to your machine, and your neckband is going to be smaller than your neckline. So you are going to just slightly stretch your neckband as you sew to fit your neckline. You don't want to stretch your neckline, you just want to stretch your neckband just enough to lay flat on your neckline as you go. And that's why we're quartering it, so that we can make sure we are stretching it evenly. So I'm going to go ahead and sew my neckband on and be right back. All right, so once you get your neckband sewn on, we are going to move on to our cuffs. And again, you really can do these 3 pieces in any order you want, but I'm going to go to the cuffs. So the cuffs, oh, and with the neckband, I did forget to say this, but really with all of these pieces, if you have a directional print, I mentioned this with the waistband of the pants, if you have a directional print, you want to make sure when you're putting these on that when you flip it up, it's going to be facing the right way, because the last thing you want to do is put that on and then realize you put it on upside down. So with the cuffs, just like we did with the neckband, we're going to match up our seams with wrong sides together, flip it out, and the cuffs, I only find 2 points just because they are so much smaller. So get your top seams lined up there, find the other center point across from your seams, put a pin in it, And then I always take my seam line and I slide it in to the cuff. Here's my seam and here's the seam on my arm. So I slide it in and line up my seam lines there. Put those in, and I don't worry about having my wrist just because it's so easy to do like this. So then I just find that fold and bring that pin to it and pin it in, and then again you're going to just slightly stretch your cuff to fit your wrist and sew all the way around. And I'm going to go ahead and sew on both cuffs here, and then be right back to finish up with the waistband. Alright, so I have both of my cuffs sewn on. They're there. Now we're going to do our waistband, and again, it's basically the same process. There's just one extra thing I want to note, so we're going to just line up those seams, pin it. You're going to quarter your waistband like your neckband. And find those quarter points. And the one thing, so I'm going to find them on my waistband here. The biggest thing here is that this is a high-low curve. So what that means is that your curves are not the same length. So a lot of times, if you just have a straight across cut at your bottom, it's easy that the side seams are usually going to be equal distances from each other. They're going to be half points, and then you can just find your center front. But that isn't necessarily the case. This one, it probably won't be too much, especially on the smaller sizes. It's not going to make as much of a difference, but it will make a difference, even if it's minimal in the length. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to find my center front and my center back, and then I'm going to flip it back here, and I'm going to line up my center front. And you got to kind of pull it, but we're just worried about our hemline here, and line those up. Line up your raw edge, and I just kind of pull it kind of piece by piece. And so you can see here is my seam. So on this one, it's about 1/4 of an inch towards the back, my quarter point instead of that seam line. But like I said, the bigger the sizes go, the bigger of a difference. Like on an adult size, this could be the difference of like 1 inch or 2. And again, you want to make sure that they're equal so that when you sew this and attach your waistband, it fits properly. So we're just going to then go, and on the waistbands, I like to line up my seam of the waistband to the side seam of my shirt. So I'm going to line that up there the best I can. And like I said, since it's only 1/4 of an inch, I'm just going to kind of shift everything a little bit so that I can line that up. And then here, but again, the seam line is kind of a personal preference. Some people like to put it in center back. I like it here because it's kind of hidden under the underarm. So then I'm just going to match up this point here, and again, just add your waistband into those pins and get everything all pinned together. And then once you do that, you're going to, again, slightly stretch your waistband, not the waist of your shirt, and sew around as you go. And then we are done. All right, once you are done, you're going to have the cutest little set. And like I said, this sews up very quickly, and it is, again, great for beginners. There's not a lot of steps to it, and all of these steps are kind of similar, like adding all of the bands and the waistband, things like that. You don't have to worry about elastic or anything like that, and it gives such a cute result. So this is my top. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know where the pants disappeared to. They might be in my daughter's room. I did have her try them on after I sewed them. They're so cute. I will pop a picture of her little outfit, and then I think I have separate pictures of the top and the bottom, like close-up, so I'll pop those up as well. But this is just so cute. I love it. The one thing I will say is I did find the waistband on the pants to be too big, and I kind of saw that from a couple other people. I was a tester, and I saw that feedback. And so if I was doing this again, I would probably use the ribbed waistband for the pants, even though I'm not using a ribbed fabric. So that's just something to note. You may want to sew up the waistband and kind of try it on your kiddo and see if it fits or not, because that is what is holding up the pants. So if it is too big, your pants will drop down, especially on the bigger kiddos and things like that. I actually do wish that this had an elastic option. I may hack it. Like I said, everything is linked down below. You can check everything out down there. And if you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. You can also find me on Instagram. It's at Sewbex. It's SCWBEXX. And you can reach out to me there, or if you have questions, you can leave a comment down below as well. Thanks for watching. Bye.